Hello, hello. How are you? Happy Sunday, September 7th, 2025. We have arrived to our eclipse day in Pisces. Before I go any further, I just wanted to mention two things. One, I'm in a location where I don't have a lot of control over the sound, so you may hear street noise or you may hear a dog that gets, barks at something. So I will sometimes be pausing this and coming back if I have a situation. So I'm just saying that off the bat. The second thing I wanted to mention off the bat is that I will be doing eclipse readings for the duration of September. Those are 20-25 minutes in length. I do it over Zoom where I'm showing you your chart, but I'll be focusing on where these eclipses are going off in your chart so you can understand where these changes and adjustments are trying to be made in your life. They will be $45. You can pay via Venmo, Zelle. If you don't know, have my information already, you can email me at Kelly, Kelly, at Kelly Drury. My last name is drury.com. So KELLYDRURY.com. So just email me and I'll be doing them through the month of September. I usually request about 7 days for me to send them to you. So I will do them as quickly as I can, and I may need to cut them off if I get too many of them in a month. But I will be offering it through the end of the month while we are in this eclipse portal. Okay, so let's talk. So eclipses, I'll just briefly, mention what they are. It's when the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon come into a particular alignment where light is being eclipsed, and so what that means is it's being blocked. It creates very unstable energy here on Earth when they're occurring. And as a result of that, they tend to lead to sort of shakeups in our lives, adjustments that want to be made, fated events that come in because they deal with the nodes of the moon. Now, the nodes of the moon are not celestial bodies in the sky. They're points where these, they're the path, along the path of where this sun, moon, and earth will line up to create these eclipses. So in all of our astrological charts, we have a north node and a south node based on where the eclipses were going off in the sky at the time that we were born. And those move, and they continue to move around, the zodiac wheel. And they will usually spend the north node and the south node, which are directly opposite each other. I'll just briefly let you know, the north node is generally going to represent our destiny, where we're headed, fated events to help keep us on that, fated path. Our south node is what we came into this, world with, but what we're meant to kind of leave behind so we can head towards our north node. So a lot of karmic related things can be involved with the south node when they're involved. Okay, so right now, the north node is in Pisces, and the south node is in the opposite sign of Virgo. We had a new moon on, 2 weeks ago, basically, where basically when we have a new moon, the sun and the moon are together in the sign. So we're in Virgo season, and this happened when the sun and the moon were at 0 degrees Virgo. So as soon as we had moved in, we had a new moon. What's a little bit unusual about this particular grouping of, new moons, full moons, and eclipses is that one was at 0 degrees, and in 2 weeks from now, we will have another new moon also in Virgo, but it will be at the final degree of Virgo at 29 degrees. So it is a little bit more rare when we have two new moons in the same sign within a month. It has to usually be at 0 degrees and 29, degrees for that to happen. So in general, to me, this is very much about, new beginnings and endings occurring in our life. And I believe collectively, this is about the world that we are getting ready to enter into and the one that we're leaving behind, the way that we need to dream and the way that we also need to create practical alignment with it. That's sort of what I see with this Pisces Virgo access point. Okay. So as I said, Pisces and Virgo are the two signs that we are working with this particular set of eclipses. So we've already had eclipses. The cycle for these two eclipses started a year ago in September. I believe it was September 17th. Yes, September 17th was our first eclipse in Pisces of 2024. Then we had our first eclipse in Virgo earlier this year. I believe it was on March 14th, and it was at 23 degrees Virgo. Now we are having another, set of eclipses, but they're going to be both in those signs. So the first one today is going to be at 15 degrees Pisces, and in 2 weeks, as I said, the next one will be at 29 degrees Virgo. I feel like this particular set of eclipses over this 24-month period where we'll be in these two signs, this is sort of the pinnacle, like where we're going to get, I think, the most information and movement, because it's the only set of eclipses that have, Pisces and Virgo involved. Each other one, the one that we had last year, we were finishing up in Aries, and earlier this year we were finishing up in Libra. So it's, this is the first one where we have the two signs actually involved. So there's a lot of potency that comes with this month. So I'm just going to warn you right off the bat that September is going to be bumpy. And it's going to be bumpy for a lot of reasons. As I've been talking about in my previous audios and videos, that all of these outer planets have moved into new signs in the last 8 to 10 months. Now all of them are retrograding in those new signs, and one of them actually just retrograded back into their old sign, Saturn. Saturn had moved out of Pisces, where this North Node is, into Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, which means a brand new cycle for Saturn. It ended up going retrograde on July 13th, and then it moved back into Pisces just this past week on September 1st. It will go direct and move forward again, but it does feel interesting that Saturn has just entered back into Pisces just as we're about to have this eclipse. So Saturn is here to, help us with structure. It can create delays and burdens, but I feel when it's retrograding, it's not about it's more reflective and in review. And hey, are we sure that that's going to be are the structures of yesterday really going to work for the structures of tomorrow? I feel like that's what Saturn is trying to help us see. As it's moving back into Pisces and saying, whatever your dream is, it's going to require a different level of structure than what you've been doing, previously. So that's Saturn. Now, Pisces is ruled by two planets, depending on whether you're talking about the modern or the traditional form of astrology. So, Pisces is traditionally ruled by Jupiter, and from the modern perspective, it's ruled by Neptune. So looking at those two, Neptune also is one of those planets that just recently moved out of Pisces and into Aries, and it is now also retrograding. It started its retrograde on July 4th. So it will retrograde, and then it will, go back into its sign of Pisces on October 22nd, and then it will finally come out of Pisces early next year and stay in Aries for good. So I'm mentioning all this because this is all happening relatively close to where this eclipse is happening. So it feels like there's some whispers from our old world of, hey, if you've not wrapped that up, or if you've not completed something, have you not gone to a deeper level with that thing from the past that you're trying to release? Have you seen all of it? So for instance, just looking at deeper patterns related to addiction, for instance, I personally am looking at my relationship to technology. I personally have found over the last few months, I've been observing what feels like changes in the way that I think and the way that I even in my emotional nature, I find I can have less patience, especially when I've been on technology or on social media in particular. So I'm realizing I need to start looking at that addiction, and I'm noticing it's also interfering with my ability to be creative. So I think that's the thing that we're really being asked to look at, because anything that's moving into Aries is about a new start. But Aries is a fire sign, and it is one of the more creative signs. And so to create, we kind of need to make sure that we're creating the environment and conditions to allow us to come from a new place and not an old place. So what are the things that we need to put down? Okay. So particularly, I think what was interesting about this, this particular eclipse that's happening today, it's again, like I said, happening at Pisces, 15 degrees. However, it goes up to this, when we look at the Sabian symbol, every degree of the zodiac has a symbol that's associated with it. And the one for Pisces 16, which is for this degree point, is labeled the flow of inspiration. And it's about the important part of our life practice that we need for creativity is to find inner peace and, connect here and now with the eternal everywhere. So, but what is distracting us from being able to do that and settle into that? Where have we lost faith in our ability to create versus having to rely on outside sources or other people's information or technology or things like AI? So, Pisces is higher creativity. When I think of it, it represents art and music and mysticism. It's devotional, and it can be associated with sacrifice. But it's a water sign, a very compassionate water sign that is the last sign of the zodiac too, and so it's kind of been through everything, and it's wanting to be very imaginative and the dreamer. And, it wants to be creative and trusting and have faith. It's a very spiritual sign. Our south node is in Virgo. Virgo is where we need to let things go. That's that side of things. And so, it's important for us to, look at what are the practical things that we need to put down, including, our habits, our rituals, what needs to be updated. What are we doing on a day-to-day basis that is supporting our life or pulling away from our life? And what's interesting about Virgo 16, which is where the south node is right now, is called the wildness within us, an orangutan. It is futile and counterproductive to ignore that we all have a wild beast within with which we must come to terms, rebalancing of inner primal forces. So I feel that that's an interesting thing for us because when it comes to Virgo, it wants order. It wants things to be perfect. It's very, very interested in, organization and, like I said, bringing order from chaos. That's its goal. And that provides our ability to be of service to other people when things are nice and organized and clear. It's very useful. It can be supportive to our health to have that level of, ritual. But what also happens with Virgo is we can get so orderly and so perfectionistic and as a result very critical that it starts to feel burdensome to our dream and creative life. And so I think that that's always what these two signs are trying to kind of support each other with. Like Virgo wants to help Pisces. Can we put some order and structure earthly things to your dreams? Where Pisces is saying to Virgo, hey, can we lighten up and be a little bit more compassionate in our delivery of creating order? Or are we going to attack everybody who's, being more critical, and harsh in that nature? So, by the way, I just wanted to mention, because I'm going to take a sip of water, that during eclipse portals and seasons, this is one of the things you want to be doing a lot of, is hydrating, because this is a very electrical type of transit or celestial, event, and we will feel it. So be sure you're hydrating. I'm just going to take a quick drink. Okay. All right. So those are the 2 points that are happening and where, today's eclipse, will be focused in that general area. The other things that are happening surrounding this eclipse that are supportive. Let's talk about support first. Jupiter, who is one of the rulers of this North Node eclipse, is in Cancer. Cancer is also a water sign, which makes it in a trine formation with Pisces. And it's actually almost a perfect trine. And to this is great because Jupiter in Cancer which I talked about back in July, it's one of Jupiter's favorite places to be is in Cancer. However, since it entered Cancer, it's been squaring Saturn, the planet of, burdens and lessons and trial and error. And so it's finally cleared that, area. And so now it's forming this trine. So it's much more supportive. And I feel like we're going to get a little bit more of that, protective benefit from Jupiter right now, especially as the ruler of this particular event. I hear a little dog rumbling, so I may pause for a moment if it gets out of hand. The other thing that is happening right now for this eclipse, and now let me just mention, it is a full moon eclipse. So we have a full moon. That means the sun is over here in Virgo, and the moon has moved since 2 weeks ago to now being a cross. This is where there's a big illumination. We feel full moons in big ways. Everything is lit up. And when we have an eclipse, a lunar eclipse, where we have a full moon situation, and now a light from that moon is going to be eclipsed, it's like a very, we all know what full moons feel like. They're erratic, and I always say, just go into a school on a full moon or a hospital on a full moon, and you will know it's the full moon. Everything is a little bit wild and crazy those nights. But to add to that, add eclipse energy. That is going to be, so it's going to be erratic. So this is not a time to, I would just be very mindful this month of your whereabouts, what you're doing, being very slow and conscious. Just know the energies will not be stable. And I think that will be the case for pretty much most of the month. Speaking of unstable, just to take a little pause about something that happened yesterday. I believe it was yesterday. Let me double check. But Uranus, the planet that actually reminds me of eclipses. It's the planet that brings us sudden change. It acts like lightning. It is electrical, kind of similar to eclipses. It went retrograde yesterday on the 6th. It was at just that first degree of Gemini. So it's going to, turn around, and it will also go back and re-enter into Taurus. It's going to do that on November 7th, and then it'll eventually go back into Gemini and stay in Gemini for good. But it's going to enter Taurus and stay there for a few months. So once again, another outer planet. And this is the one that creates all the change. It was, in Taurus, which was shaking up all of our earthly structures. And then it moved into Gemini. So we're seeing this more, of our air structures, technology, the way that we think, the way that we speak, the way that we communicate. Those, more Gemini, that's where Uranus is creating that shakeup right now. But it's turning around and retrograding. So again, now, because of that happening, we have Pluto retrograding, we have Neptune retrograding, we have Uranus retrograding, and we have Saturn retrograding. All four, the most outermost planets, are in retrograde form. The outer ones can do that for many months at a time in the course of a year, so we don't tend to feel it as much. However, they're all in new signs, so it means they're either hanging out at like 0 or 1 degree of a sign, or they're in the previous sign at 29 degrees. These are very potent, parts of any sign because of that new beginning and ending energy that comes with both of them. So that is, again, why that is going on kind of in the background. Like, it's sort of like I always describe these outer planets moving into their new signs as we've had a major set design change on Earth. And so we've all been like, okay, we're in a new show. We're looking at all the new props and the sets. But then suddenly when everybody's retrograding, they're like, we got to go back. So now everybody's getting pulled back into the previous story that was going on before these all moved in for review. What do you got to leave behind? What did you not see before? What is this eclipse trying to show you? I'll also mention that Mercury is relatively close to the sun right now. I believe it's next week on the 13th. We will have a cazimi. We already had this happen, but Mercury retrograded. So it's going to be the second time, that these two are, coming together. They did it on July 31st. Then Mercury retrograded actually was doing it while it was in the retrograde. I apologize. Now that it's direct, it's doing it for the second time. And that will be at Virgo 20 degrees. So again, not too far from where the south node is, which is at 25 degrees. I'm sorry, 15 degrees. I'm getting my last sets confused. And then Mercury will get ready to enter Libra later this month. But Mercury rules Virgo. So it is going to be a pretty potent bit of messaging, because we've got the sun in Virgo, and then we have Mercury in one of its two signs. It's either in Gemini or Virgo when it's in its home signs. So we have those two coming together, like I said, on September 13th. So there's just going to be this, it kind of feels like this to me. Here's some information in a loud way. I'm going to back up, let you feel into that. And then boom, I'm going to have another planetary event kind of hone in on it and hone in on it. And I feel it's so that we get the personal messaging, Mercury, for ourselves about what this eclipse is about, and the one that's coming, we'll be completing. Okay. There are a couple other things happening with this eclipse. There is an inconjunct happening. So that is a 150-degree angle between where the North Node is and Venus, the planet of relationships and love and money and self-worth and value. So there is a positive, I believe, adjustment being made in that direction. Now, let's just be honest. When it comes to Venus, if it's relationship related and it's in Leo, so it could be a little bit louder in this case, that we will... like I said, there could be some adjustments that need to be made to your relationships right now. It could mean that they're going to end. It could mean that they're going to have a new start. But something needs to shift. And it's going to be loud. It's going to be at the center of your world because of Venus being in Leo, where whenever anything is in Leo, it's pulling center stage, It wants to express its love, So Venus in Leo can sometimes be that overboard, I'm going to, profess my love and I want to, get on the stage and, sing songs about it or write poetry about it. So this new moon, maybe it's perhaps, trying to reignite what love means to you, what it is to be heart-centered in your relationships or with yourself. So that little, aspect is coming in, but it is an inconjunct, which is called a hard aspect, which means it comes with tension, and adjustments, and like I said, fated events. Humans don't tend to change. That's all that eclipses bring, and that's also what, inconjuncts bring, and that is what Uranus brings. So be prepared for change. Be open to it. Open yourself up to things that are going to help liberate you and allow you to step forward and move towards the dream that you have. To move towards the dream that you have, you also need to let go of doing it perfectly, Virgo. It's kind of as if we were thinking about the world right now as going through a major computer update, a major computer update with all new programming and all new, elements and things associated with it. So it's going to be hard during times like that to move things fast through it. It's going to feel a little bit, kind of like this. But that's helpful for us to be, understanding more detailed versions of how these new, planets moving into new places, what these eclipses are doing, what the details of this looks like in our life. In olden times, when eclipses would happen, they were they saw them as omens. They brought fear to people because it was scary. It was scary to see something going in front of the sun and cutting the light. They didn't know what that meant. And it was, because people were so much more attuned to nature, they could feel that energy so, specifically. So I think this is a moment where we're trying to reconnect with, our spiritual nature, why we're here, what are our dreams, what do we want to create in quantum ways that is very heart-centered and has compassion and, a humanitarian, service-oriented nature, as a part of it, because that's what this new world's about, by the way. The capitalistic nature of things is going to reduce in that new world. You will have a choice Which one do you want to? You want to stay in the old, or do you want to move into the new? Free will. That is a big part of what this new world is about. Free will. I know we have free will, and some of us seek comfort in no change. And so many of us will not leap. We will not move forward in those new ways. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you will continue to stay in this world that is very constrained by authoritarian nature, and that capitalistic nature, and that hierarchical nature. I have power over you, and you have power over them, and that system. You will stay there. You know it well. You know it well enough, and a lot of people will stay there because they would rather be in misery, but know what the misery is, than to leap into a new world where they have no idea what to expect. But what I will tell you about the new world is it is about compassion, heart-centered, more concentric ways of working together, very community-oriented, where nobody's got power over another. The person who is cleaning the toilets is vital and as important as the person who is paying the bills or the person that started the company. They are all needed. They are all the parts. It's in this, previous realm where we are giving value based on systems, like capitalistic systems. In the new world, value will not be placed in that way. Value will come in the form of unconditional love and being of service and being highly creative with what you have within you. Being creative in the way that you problem solve. Being creative in the way that you put your new life together and your new rituals together. That's what these eclipses and these outer planetary movements are doing. This is a major shift that's going on over, I'd say, a good 3 to 5 years. So these are the little increments that are trying to keep us on track. And so they're the moments where we feel the jolt. But without it, we would probably not move, because of just the nature of being human. The other thing that I think is vitally important for you to look at right now is your addictions. As I've explained in my, when I did the Eclipse video from September of last year, you can go back and look. I was getting a lot of downloads about that this was going to be a very difficult eclipse, the Pisces Virgo eclipse access. We were going to be seeing a lot of addiction on the rise. And unfortunately, people taking themselves out of the game. I'm using that language purposefully so this doesn't get flagged. I think you know what I mean by that. But when I say people taking themselves out of the game, that is something we have to be really concerned about. Our mental health right now, Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is the thinker. Pisces is, I said, ruled by either Jupiter or Neptune, and that's more of our inner spiritual world. Those two parts of us are it's like faith, versus belief, or, what you're going to do versus, how you're going to dream and imagine. These two are going to be, part of it is we have to really be paying attention to the mental parts of ourselves right now. As I mentioned, for me, social media, I've, just been observing. I've been observing my own way and the ways that I see that I'm changing and ways that I don't like, that I'm becoming less human and more robotic. I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in speeding up my life while I'm here. You can do that. You can take AI and you can have everything, your whole life programmed if you want. That's totally up to you. But I would ask you, what is all that efficiency for? As long as it's making the time for you to continue to explore what you love or what you believe in or what you dream of, then great. That's a supportive part of Virgo. But if you're going to organize your life so much so that there's no room for spontaneity, that there's no room for creative downloads and ideas and dreaming and, going to creative events or going to look at, art to help inspire us. If we don't make time for those types of things, then Virgo moves into a very, critical place that's going to shut us down in a lot of ways, because we get, a perfectionist won't do anything if they don't do it perfectly. And it's really, really, that's we got to let that go. When we're moving into a new realm and a new paradigm, there's a lot of trial and error involved. And that's what Saturn, who just moved back into Pisces, wants us to remember right now when we're dreaming, is that if you don't do trial and error, then you're not going to benefit from the experiences that allow you to make the best decisions for yourself moving forward. We can't think our way through this. We have to feel as well. We have to have faith as well. And we have to take action. That's not so. We got the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual all involved at all times. Those parts of us are all involved. This one is asking us to have more faith and, make more room to let these dreams come in. So I would be paying attention. I would be paying attention to your dreams in particular this week, all month. I would keep even a little notepad next to your bed, or if you, do, take audio notes. We're being guided, and it's really important for us to pay attention to where we're being guided to, and being discerning as to where that guidance is coming from. Is it coming from our guides? Is it coming from the planets? Or is it coming from less than supportive places? People or places that are maybe trying to manipulate you in some way. So be really mindful of that. That's something I'm really mindful of, which is why I'm taking a bit of a break from social media as well. Because I just can feel this, like I get resentful and angry every time I open it up, and just feel like everything is trying to pull my attention away from me. And I don't like it. I think it starts to create a level of psychosis that we all need to be really, really, really aware of. So let me think if there's anything else. So like I said, Jupiter, the magnifier, planet of abundance, is going to be trining today's eclipse. That's very supportive and beneficial for all of us. It's going to be in conjunct the North Node. Venus and the North Node will be in an in conjunct formation. So that will, again, have it probably create some adjustments to either our financial world, our creative world, or our relationship world. Adjustments may get made there that may, pull some center focus because of Venus being in Leo. And then, as I said, in just a few days, we will get more very direct messages from Mercury meeting up with the Sun again. We call that a cazimi on the 13th. It will be in Virgo, so it'll be very specific, I believe, to what it is we are meant to be leaving behind, so we can remember that we're wild and that we need spontaneity. We didn't come here to be programs. We didn't come here to be robots. We came here to be living, breathing human beings. And it's important that we remember what makes us human beings and how that is different than any other species, so that we can bring that part of ourselves to this world that is just pulling us all, trying to pull all of this interdimensional energy together. Okay, let me think if there's anything else I wanted to focus on. I will say you can go back in time to September 7th, same date of 2006, if you happen to have been alive then, or if you remember. That was when we had a similar eclipse in Pisces. So, you can take a look at that period and just see what were some things going on for you around then, and just see if there's something related to that period now. I was actually getting ready to get married at the time. I've been divorced since, but it has me really looking at, right now I've got Jupiter in my 7th house of legal partnerships and marriages, and there's a lot of stuff in my chart right now is kind of indicating that, relationships are going to become a major focus for me in the upcoming months. So it makes sense when I look back in time and see the relationship to that in my previous, in the previous eclipse about, like I said, 2006, so nearly 20 years ago. Okay, let me think if there's anything else. I think those are the big things I wanted to mention. Yeah, for now. I'll probably come on again through a little bit more often. I love eclipse season because I love change. I love this world changing and evolving forward, because we can't keep doing what we're doing. We're getting very, very pathologically ill on every level by staying in that realm without any adjustment. So I'm actually quite excited for this opportunity. So So lean in, dream again, let go. Look at the addictions. What is at the pit of those addictions? What is it you're truly craving that you're not getting? You know, that you keep going to those coping mechanisms for. Really take some time there. You know, do some writing. And know that we will have another eclipse in Virgo at the end of the month. That one's going to be, I think, pretty powerful as well. So, like I said, just pace yourself these next few weeks. Hydrate. Prioritize sleep. Don't be rushing around. This energy is frenetic and a lot of sudden things can happen very quickly. You know, accidents can happen very quickly. So slow down. I know it's frustrating right now. I know everybody wants the direction and the answers, but if we don't deal with these deeper parts of ourselves that have been not tended to, we're just bringing that crap forward and we're not really allowing ourselves to live freely and in a liberated way. Okay, I'm going to end there. I know this was a long one. These are probably going to be, these are very potent. There's so many parts to them, so I apologize this is so long. Again, if you would like to hear more about how these are going off in your chart, what house they're going off in, if it's going off on a planet that is very specific to you, please reach out, Kelly@kellydrury.com. I'll keep an eye on the comments here if I see anything here. But, reach out if you would like a reading. I would love to do it. I request that it will take up to 7 days for me to email it to you because I do get backed up with everybody registering. So up to 7 days, it'll be a 25 minute reading that's recorded. You can download it and keep it. You will see your chart. I will walk you through briefly your chart so you know the parts of your chart. It's very helpful, and it's a very good deal, for $45. I just request that you pay me via Zelle or Venmo. I'm not doing credit card just because of it's a low offering. I don't want to have fees and all that taken out. So let's get ready. Sending you lots of eclipse love and compassion and unconditional love. And I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that if you've gotten to this point of the video, I am super grateful for you taking this much time to be with me. Lots of love.